Shame on you, City Council. So tonight, I say, vote them out.
And vote they did. Fury in Festus fires 4 members of the City Council after they approved a data center over those loud objections. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. Local officials across the region are now recalibrating their positions and taking cues from that mini political earthquake that shook and cost the majority of the Festus City Council their jobs Tuesday night. At City Hall in St. Louis, Mayor Kara Spencer says she's now proceeding with caution.
It's my intention to really figure out how to thread the needle, so to speak, in protecting community from the real concerns that residents and community have about data centers, including pollution of all kinds, and walkability.
Spencer's own walkability on the data center tightrope could soon face headwinds in the city. She's bought some time before city planners and the Board of Public Service are scheduled to greenlight a data center in Midtown. She seems to think there's an air of inevitability to these massive server warehouses. They're coming online somewhere, costing us our electric rates. So can they deliver a benefit while they're here if we put them in city limits?
Data centers are a part of daily life for the human race at this point, and anybody who uses a data center or is using a smartphone or any type of equipment is using a data center of some kind. Where they go, they have to go somewhere, and I think that's the question we should all be asking ourselves as Americans, and how to best protect ourselves.
Joining us now, J.B. Pritzker's running mate, Christian Mitchell, former House Democrat who left state government after serving for a time in the governor's administration, also after something of a, well, you call it a feather in your cap, writing and helping to steer the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act through the House and Senate.
Yeah, proud of it.
I want to ask you about that. Because you were such a big part of CEJA, it mandates that all fossil fuel plants are offline by 2045, I think, and coal by 2030. That would be in the administration that you're hoping to enter. Mm-hmm. The state's own resource adequacy report, filed by regulators that your administration created, now warns that potential power shortages could be coming, rolling brownouts or blackouts, and Illinois may need to keep thermal generators running as reliability assets. Yeah. ComEd capacity charges spiking 800%. Did you get the timeline wrong?
No, so here's the thing that's really good about CEJA. First of all, customers in the ComEd zone are saving money on their bills because of the carbon mitigation program that we had that's helped keep our nuclear fleet online, which remains our cleanest and cheapest and some of the most reliable power other than some of our renewables, so that's good. The second thing is those regulators you mentioned have the ability to say, hey, hold on, we need this generation to stay online, we need to do it for reliability. In the bill, they have the ability to say this generator has to stay online. What's most important, though, is we've got to get more renewables online, we've got to get more storage. We just passed a bill to do that. And the governor has said, and I agree, we've got to get more small modular reactors, we've got to get more nuclear power online. It's clean, it's reliable, it's going to be relatively cheap for consumers, it'll help bring down rates. So we can do all these things at once.
But all this is happening, I wonder how you react to the political expression that we've seen from so many people about these data centers, the data centers that are eating our electricity like a teenager at a buffet line, right? Yeah. I mean, this is all for Google and Meta and big companies like them. Demand is surging because of the AI that's being built into these things. And closing coal plants or natural gas-fired plants feels like draining the pool right while people are jumping into it.
Yeah. Well, I'd say a couple things about this. So first of all, the hyperscale problem is a real problem. And we've got to make sure that these companies that have trillion-dollar market caps are paying their fair share. My energy costs, your energy costs, the energy costs of the folks who are watching this should not go up based on what Google and Meta want to do. They have the capital to do it. Now, we want economic development. We think that's a good thing. But ratepayers are rightfully freaked out about what that could potentially mean for them. So they should pay their fair share. But I would also say we deliberately structured CEJA to keep more combined cycle natural gas plants online, the ones that are cleanest, that are newest. And again, if regulators look up and say, hey, hold on, we got to keep this plant, they have the ability to do so. So I feel good about what we've done, but we do need to get more generation online. And I think that's renewable, that's solar, that's battery storage, like the bill that just passed.
I wonder if viewers might hear you saying, we got it all right.
No,
I'm
not saying that. I would say that, again, there's always more we can do to get more generation online. But natural gas is not some panacea. Right now, if you want to build a new natural gas plant, that's 5 to 7 years. That's not going to come online for a while. Some of the things that have happened on energy are all these projects that the Trump administration has canceled. Wind, solar, things that could come online right now that could help with that energy spike that we see at certain times. We've got to get those projects online. We've got to make sure our regulators are getting us the ability to have more transmission. That's going to help right now.
Should universities Should data centers, these hyperscale data centers, should they build their own power supply off the grid, off of our grid, build their own micronuclear reactors? What's the most immediate solution you can point to and say, in Illinois, they're not going to drive your bill higher?
Yeah. I think that can absolutely be part of the solution. I think we've got to look at it in an all of the above way. But the most important thing is you've got trillion-dollar companies that have the ability to spend capital to make sure the impact is not on you, not on me, not on your viewers. We got to figure out the right way to make that happen so we can continue to build new economic development, build with union jobs and union workers, but also make sure that it's not hitting your bill.
All right, so we're talking about what powers your lights, your screens, how you watch this here. Let's talk about what's powering your political career for a minute. You're attaching yourself to the ambitions of Governor J.B. Pritzker. He's won 2 elections. He's running for a 3rd here. And in picking you, he gave this quote. The number 1 qualification is, can you do the job of being governor? Because if you're lieutenant governor, that may come to you. Sure. He said that publicly. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you directly. Has Governor Pritzker told you whether he intends to run for president in 2028?
No. He's told me that he is running for re-election as governor and that he wanted me to be his lieutenant governor. He has always said, Mark, from the beginning, whether it was Lieutenant Governor Stratton, who's not, God willing, going to be our next U.S. Senator, or myself, you've got to be ready to step in and do the job if, God forbid, anything happens.
Have you asked him?
No.
Really?
Really.
So let me get this right. You're running for lieutenant governor, a job that has no Illinois constitutional duties specifically set apart to itself, unless the governor decides to run for president, and then you become governor of like the 5th largest state in America. That would...
I'm running, but Mark, I'm running to be his governing partner. I'm running because we have a Main Streets program in the Lieutenant Governor's office to help not just places like Chicago, but towns like Belleville, Alton, et cetera, to help revitalize their downtowns. I'm running because we have a Rural Affairs Council that cares deeply about what happens with our farmers. Farmers being hurt right now by Donald Trump's tariffs. So we've got duties and responsibilities, and that's what I intend to do as Lieutenant Governor.
There is work to be done, and I understand whoever assumes that office will not just have a walk in the park, but I do wonder... I mean, as we are having this discussion right now, you're well aware where the governor is. He's with Al Sharpton and the National Action Network and with a number of other 2028 presidential hopefuls. It's no secret that he has interest in who's in the White House. If you haven't asked him this question, shouldn't you? Shouldn't you vet him the way he's vet you?
I think what's important is whether or not we're going to be good governing partners, and that's what I intend to be. I'm focused on Illinois, so is the governor, but he is a national leader. People look at Illinois and say, look at what's happened, look at the turnaround on the budget, look at the investment in health care and workers' rights and women's right to choose. This is somebody we want, that sort of leadership. That is a national model. I think that's a good thing for the people of Illinois, given past history with past governors.
Let's ask you more after the break about what the future of Illinois could look like should you become governor one day. We're back in a moment. Welcome back. We return to our conversation with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's running mate, Christian Mitchell, former House Democrat, off into academia, back into running for government again.
Yeah.
You were in the House when Illinois adopted the Safety Act for the first time. Mm-hmm. There have been a couple of changes since. You've seen critics, including Darren Bailey and his administration, who have called for a full repeal of that bill. A Loyola study, where you went to law school, found that the total statewide population of people either awaiting trial or in jail or on electronic monitoring has actually grown 17% since that law took effect. Governor Pritzker himself has said the law may need fixes to close gaps that might allow repeat offenders out pre-trial. If the governor says it needs fixing, does it?
I think that we're always open to tweaks on policy. I want to take a step back for a second, though, and remind folks about the system that folks are defending. Previously, your ability, your literal wealth, was the only question as to whether you got out of jail. It was not a question of risk, flight risk, danger to the public. Under this bill, no matter how much money you have, the question is, are you at risk? Prosecutor puts forward the information, and a judge can detain you whether you are as rich as Governor Pritzker or as poor as a man on the street. That is how a system should work. Are there things we can do to make it better? I'm sure that's true. Always open to those sorts of tweaks. Anything that makes us safer is something that myself and the governor are always going to support.
The difference, though, between being open to make change and pursuing change are bigger than just a gap. That's like a canyon.
I don't know if I'd say a canyon. I will say this. There are a lot of proposals out there, always willing to entertain them, happy to get more into those details as I, God willing, to your point, get back into government. But at the end of the day, my question is going to be, does it make us safer? Does it make us less safe? Does it go back to a system where your ability to pay was the only question as to whether or not you remain in jail? We think it should be about public safety, risk to the public. That's what the current system does.
You mentioned some of those changes proposed. I'll read some of them to you. Republicans have proposed making all felonies eligible for detention. They've proposed revoking pretrial release if a defendant commits any new crime during their pretrial situation. And 3, creating a presumption of detention for crimes against children. Which of those 3 proposals would you support? Any of them? All of them?
Again, so I haven't had a chance to read those. You're telling me for the first time, so I want to look.
Broad strokes.
But my question is always, are there unintended consequences, right? Are there things that we don't foresee based on making those changes that proceed to blow up our prison population? You mentioned, for example, some growth. Those are all the things we want to make sure that we address as we think about which of those changes make sense. So all of them sound like something open to considering, but we've got to consider it holistically.
So open to considering changes, but then I look at the legislature and their agenda, and I see nothing on this. The Democrats have supermajorities; they could fix it by lunch if they wanted to. What's the holdup?
Listen, I'm not in government or in the
running to
legislature.
help run the
I'm absolutely running to do that. Certainly, public safety remains a priority. What the legislature is doing or not doing, again, I'd have to spend more time looking at.
On the Trust Act, you served as deputy governor overseeing public safety. Attorney General Kwame Raoul's own guidance says that Illinois police cannot give an immigration agent access to individuals in their custody, even if that person is suspected of a violent crime. I asked the AG about that. He acknowledged the restriction there. Jay Hoffman, not a Republican, a Democrat, the southernmost Democrat in the Illinois House also, the assistant majority leader of your party in the House, says that the Trust Act should let local police alert the feds about suspects accused of violent crimes. If your own team is saying that, hey, the law has a gap this big, why isn't Springfield doing anything about it?
Well, I want to just remind folks that right now, so I oversaw the Department of Corrections, and often some of the criticism I've heard as well, hey, how can we make sure DOC cooperates with the federal government, for example? There is a public release. When folks are getting released, their term is ending. That is all public information that federal law enforcement has access to, so they can do a lot of that stuff right now. Again, I've not seen Leader Hoffman's bill. Happy to take a look at it, assuming he has one, and see what makes sense on.
Well, I don't know that he's filed a bill. I asked him a question
it.
about if someone is accused, say someone's in police custody, meaning they've been detained, accused of a violent crime. I mean, right now, when I asked the Attorney General about it, he said, well, we can't notify, we have to notify a foreign government under the Vienna Convention, but we can't notify our own federal officials there. I mean, you understand how that sounds to like a normal person, right? You'll call the consulate in Guatemala City, but won't call the DHS field office?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, these folks are in police custody, so they're already subject to the criminal justice system. I think the justice system should have its say. Again, open, this is, again, not a criticism I've heard on this issue. Open to considering all things that make us safer, while also making sure that we don't lose the trust of our immigrant community, and also making sure we don't encourage the sort of activity we saw that was incredibly harmful, not just in Chicago, but in places like Macoupin County across the state with ICE shooting our neighbors in the face.
Certainly, I don't think anybody supports that, or anybody running for office that I've seen in Illinois, at the very least. So I guess here's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
On CJA, on the Safety Act, on the Trust Act, you've acknowledged there are some things that need to change in them or could change in them. You're open to changes in them. Were those tried and true policies, or were they experiments?
I don't know that the answer, I want to push back a little bit on your underlying characterization. Law is always a living, breathing document, right? CJA, with the best information at the time, is the law we passed. There were some reforms already in the new energy storage bill. I think people are calling it SURJA that just passed, that is tweaking some of the stuff there. But we did bake in safeguards that say, for example, if our agencies look up and have a reliability issue, they can say, hey, listen, let's take a look at this. Let's make sure some of those plants stay open. So I think that laws are living, breathing things. As we get new information, as we know better, we do better. But I'm still very proud of a system that makes sure that we are investing in nuclear and renewable energy and lowering rates for folks, and that makes sure that we are keeping folks in prison based on their risk and not based on how much money they have in their pockets.
Governor Pritzker recently said in a very long and informative interview with the New York Times that he got most of his agenda done in his first year in office. I think that's objectively true. A couple big things stand out to me that he did not get accomplished: the progressive income tax and a state-run health exchange that would have a public option attached to it. But he did get most of what he ran on done. What are you running on this time?
Yeah, I think it's lowering costs for folks, because every time I talk to people, I've been to 20 counties around the state, Crawford, Macoupin, wherever you are, Cook, doesn't matter. People are concerned about their costs.
The Republican running against you says gas prices are higher because you doubled the gas tax.
The Republican running against us also raised property taxes 13 times by 81%, so I'm not listening to Darren Bailey on costs. I'm not going to do that. In Clay County, not the state. Sure, but the point is, like, what you do locally may apply to what you want to do for the state. But more importantly,
and when he comes back and says that Governor Pritzker hasn't taken any statewide action to lower property taxes yet, that, you would say what to him?
I would say that putting $2.5 billion in public education, which is the biggest reason we have local property taxes rising, is a significant investment in potentially lowering them. If local governments, like Darren Bailey's in Clay County, do what they're supposed to do and take some of those savings, give them to ratepayers. But I'm sorry, to taxpayers. But I would also say this. It is important to stand up for the people of Illinois, no matter who you're standing up against. When Donald Trump does something, you, by the way, reported on this, that is going to endanger 9 rural hospitals in the state of Illinois by cutting Medicaid, and Darren Bailey is silent on that, that demonstrates the kind of leader he's going to be for the state of Illinois. So we have plans and thoughts on how to lower costs, and we're running against people who are refusing to stand up even when the president is hurting the state of Illinois.
You answered my next question, which was why haven't we seen locals actually lower property taxes? And you added another line of attack on there, so there's a deft political maneuver there. All right, last question to you. If you're running on lowering prices, make one promise to our viewers right now in Illinois who are going to be voting on this in this election on November. What exactly are you going to do? What tangible item can they take home to the bank with them today? When they watch this interview, Christian Mitchell and J.B. Pritzker will do what for them in January of 2027?
One of the things that the governor's fighting for right now that I'm going to support is making sure that we can hold insurance companies accountable for raising the premiums on your home. We're also going to continue to work with...
Bill.
Fantastic.
I'm asking you for a new thing.
Sure. We're also going to make sure that we are doing all that we can to make sure that your rural hospitals have the funding that they need. Now, part of that's going to mean standing up to the federal government, trying to reverse some of these cuts that have happened through the big, ugly bill, H.R. 1.
And on J.B. Pritzker's 2 big things he didn't get through, would you bring them back? The progressive income tax?
Listen, so the governor spent like $60 million of his own money trying to raise his own taxes in order to make sure we could pay more money for schools. We're looking at what the legislature, a lot of the legislators
the voters
are talking.
weighed in.
Sure, and a lot of legislators are now talking about additional revenue. That's the legislature is going to take, I think, the lead on that. But the second thing is continuing to make sure that we drive down healthcare costs. Very open on doing so. Whether the public option is the right thing or not in this environment, I just don't know. It's something that I got to spend more time studying.
The governor has been studying it now for 8 years. What more do you need to know?
Again, I'm just getting back into this, and at the end of the day, my only question is what's going to drive down rates for folks? I'm not really an ideologue, Mark, so the question is what is the right prescription to lower the healthcare costs for the people of Illinois? Whatever that is something I'm going to be interested in trying to get done.
Christian Mitchell could be your next governor, depending on what Governor Pritzker does, should he stay in office beyond January. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
We're back in a moment. Mayor Kara Spencer is suing the state-controlled Board of Police Commissioners. That was Governor Mike Kehoe's campaign promise, to take control of the city police away from the mayor and, by extension, the voters who live in the city and elect that mayor. It was heavily promoted by the police union in Jefferson City. Now, citing irreconcilable differences, Spencer takes them to court to break up permanently and return local control. And in Jefferson City, Governor Mike Kehoe signed Senate Bill 888 into law Tuesday, overhauling the state's juvenile justice system. The new law requires juvenile officers to hand over criminal records to prosecutors when they encounter repeat violent juvenile offenders. And in St. Louis County, the jail is full. Cells are home to 34 more people than they were built to hold. Nearly 1,100 of the 1,200 plus are still awaiting their trial. The jail director suggested the county and courts may soon consider a return to a COVID-era policy where some defendants facing lower-level nonviolent charges might be released. We're back in a moment to check the record. The hardest vote any elected official will ever cast is the one they know will cost them their job. And you can bet politicians everywhere take notice when that happens, including at St. Louis City Hall.
Being in office, you take is a risky business.
For them, because the ballot box is the great equalizer. It's the one place where the working class and the powerful ruling class are exactly the same. Festus, Missouri proved that Tuesday night. Let's check the record. 4 council members heard their voters loud and clear, and they stood their ground and voted their conscience anyways.
So the 4 of you up for re-election in just 2 short weeks, I say you're fired.
Officials held their ground. Voters kept their word. Regardless of how you feel about the future of our power grid, water supply, or the ever-expanding data-driven surveillance state, Tuesday night's results should give us all hope. You might think the council was wrong. You might think the council was brave. Frankly, here, both things are true at the same time. You can question their judgment, but you can't question their willingness to put their seats on the line for what they believed. And the voters, they did exactly what the founders intended. They showed up, they cast a ballot, they made change. That's not a dysfunction. That's democracy doing precisely what it was designed to do. That's our show. Until next time, we're off the record.